And Dixon and Star. Governor Scott Walker, President of the American Foundation, Governor of Wisconsin. I would say the last great governor of Wisconsin. That'll stand for a long time. He's in our area. And please welcome, with Your Highness, Dennis Quaid.
Wow, this is like we had the Hollywood premiere a couple of nights ago. That's America, right?
That's exactly right. I think there's a big song about that. That's America. It's a small town.
That's right.
I grew up in one just up the way. Well, we were just talking about this. So this theater wasn't originally called the Dixon Historic Theater. Dixon Theater, built in 1922. There were actually two earlier versions built out of wood, but after the fires, they decided it was time to build it out of brick. But who would have thought in a great city like this, 900 seats, and you know, we had a waiting list of 3,000 more people who wanted to come to this special event.
But we don't compare crowd sizes, do we, Scott?
The good news is we just got approval to have another showing. We're probably going to do it next week. Watch for more details. For those of you signed up online here from the Dixon community, tell it to your friends and neighbors next Thursday. We're opening up for another advanced showing. Although Dennis, we're not going to make you come back, so these folks get a special treat. But we love Dixon. We love this community. We love the fact that there's people and students in particular from all over the country here for this very special event to give tribute both to you and the man you portrayed, our beloved President Ronald Reagan, from right here in Dixon, Illinois.
Right. Yeah. We would have loved to have shot in Dixon, but Oklahoma gives us 37 cents on every dollar we spend back, and I think sometimes Illinois may take 37 cents more, doesn't it? Too much like California, I think.
That's why I live in Wisconsin. Seriously, no, good.
Oh, we love you. Love Illinois. My wife, my beautiful wife, is from Edwardsville.
Oh, yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming. In a few moments, you're going to see a spectacular film. You'll see images of Dixon. You'll see the arch. You'll see the young Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
But we're particularly excited because I was there for part of the final scene. You came out to the Reagan Ranch, not only to film, but you were there even before that. And tell the folks here, I think that had an incredible impact on you choosing to take this really remarkable role that I know in Hollywood they're probably a little bit biased against Ronald Reagan, but I think you'll see for Dennis, and I would argue for Penelope and Miller, this should be a nomination type role because the two of them do a phenomenal job as presidents and presidents.
I don't know about that, given Ronald Reagan's history with Hollywood. Who needs it? This is better. It really is. It was an honor to play him, and I was asked to play him. I had a fear went up my spine because he was my favorite president, and really was. And I've been aware of Ronald Reagan politically since 1964, when my dad was pounding the dashboard when he was giving the speech, and saying "Go Ronnie" and stuff. And before that, I knew him as the guy who sold Boraxo soap on Death Valley days. But I always loved and admired it, and the first chance I got to vote for him, I sure did. Reagan came along at a time when, very much like today, by the way, we had high interest rates, 20% interest rates, by the way. I know because I bought a house. Like, please, I wish somebody would save me from that. But gas prices. We had hostages we gotta have hostages over there today in the Middle East. I wish we'd talk about it more, to tell you the truth. And the country was in kind of a place of malaise. Those are Jimmy Carter's own words. God bless him, he did a great job with Israel and Egypt as far as bringing them together. Great accomplishment, but we needed somebody who could come along, and people were saying that we were in a Reagan came along and said, no, we're not. We're not going down, we're going there, and we followed him.
Well, and I love, there's so many great scenes, but there's a scene in the movie where Dennis is portraying President, then just Ronald Reagan, a would-be candidate. His brother convinced him, even though he didn't like to fly much, to come and meet with some folks after that 64 speech on behalf of Barry Goldwater, which we now call Time for Choosing, but came down and talked to some folks about maybe running for governor. And I remember he talked about communism and the impact, and his brother said, see, he's not just a pretty face. And I think, as you just heard from Dennis Quaid, he's not just a great actor, he knows what he's talking about when it comes to Ronald Reagan and the impact he had on this country. But one of the things that's really powerful in this movie is not just the Ronald Reagan. I was a kid growing up watching him, he had a tremendous impact on me, not just as a conservative, as an optimist, but really one of his passions was understanding how communism is such a bad thing, not just in America, but anywhere in the world. And that really came out strongly. He's still an optimist, he's still a positive guy, but Ronald Reagan had an incredible focus on making sure that communism didn't thrive, certainly not in America, but around the world. Can you talk about that? Because that's a really powerful part of the movie.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan, he was fighting communism from the time that he was president of the Screen Actors Guild. And, you know, everybody said, well, that's a wives' tale or whatever, that they were trying to take over our media and take over our unions. But when the Soviet Union broke up in 1990 and the files came out, yes, indeed, they were. How about that? Just like Hunter's laptop. Yes, so. But anyway, he was, you know, he actually had the scars to prove it. I mean, it came down to physical fights there in the union halls over this. And he testified, you know, one of the great things about him, though, at the same time, he testified in Congress about this and about communism. And he said, you know, the thing is that I think what we need to do is we need to allow the Communist Party to exist in this country, because if we don't, then it's the same thing as communism. We don't censor things like that, because let them come in, let them have a party, because the democracy can handle it. Meaning that people in this country have common sense, and they're gonna have a choice. We have a choice over here. People in communist countries over there, they didn't have a choice. It was imposed upon them. But he led the fight, and he led the charge, and he won the Cold War. He, Lech Walesa, Margaret Thatcher, and the Pope.
Well, again, so powerful, and things that we hope with this movie, a whole new generation of young people, not just those of us who remember Ronald Reagan, but young people like many of the students who are here. Shout out to all of our students who are here and up in the thank you. The folks that didn't know Ronald Reagan, whose parents might even barely remember Ronald Reagan, but who are going to get to know him because of your extraordinary portrayal
That's right.
of our 40th president. So thank you for doing that.
I'd like to say this movie is really dedicated to what I think Tim Brokaw called the greatest generation. And I know some of you are still out there. And thank you for this world that you gave us. You worked so hard, you went through the depression, you went through the World War II, you raised the kids, you wanted them to have a better life than you have. You're the embodiment of the American ethic, and thank you. And I just hope that we can give our kids and grandkids a better world than you gave us. There's still time. For anybody here who was born before 1985, you get to see this movie and remember how great this country was. And for those of you who were born after 1985, you get a glimpse of how great this country still can be.
Yes. Well, and you did more than just do an extraordinary job of portraying our 40th president. I'm going to mention somebody who's hiding behind the scenes, but Mark Joseph back there is like more than the producer. This guy was the chief motivator of making this thing happen. And I want to call, stand up here for a minute, just, this movie does not happen without Mark Dixon. I want to throw some kudos not only at Mark, but a lot of times actors come in, they do their part, they go back and they move on to the next film. Dennis Quaid, now he's here tonight. He's been at the Reagan Ranch, he's been at the Reagan Ranch Center, he's done interview, he's talked to students, he's done so many things, not just to promote this movie, but to really help promote the legacy of President Ronald Reagan. I just want to personally, on behalf of all the people here, and all the students in particular, and supporters across the country, say thank you on their behalf for your passion for this movie.
This movie's not political. It's not. You know, and if anything, it kind of points up that we need to really have that conversation again with each other. Republicans, Democrats, and independents like me. That we really need to get back to that. Reagan and Tip O'Neill had it. They had it really good. You know, because the thing is, Republicans and Democrats, we won't admit it, but we really need each other. We really do. We keep each other from going too far that way or too far this way. And, you know, we wind up in the middle, which is the sweet spot of America. It truly is. There's a wisdom in that. There really is. And it's not Republican or Democrat. This is an American movie.
And I love how you portray talking to the actor who played Tip O'Neill, said, told him about the 6 o'clock rule. You fight hard all day, but after 6 o'clock, it's just two Irishmen having a drink, right? Yeah, good time there as well. Tell us a little bit about, you know, this movie, you're going to see it's not a stunt double during the riding up at the ranch. All the riding scenes, all the beautiful scenes up at our beloved Rancho del Cielo, which was the President and Mrs. Reagan's from 1974 until we took it over about a quarter century ago. Beautiful riding scenes when you were with the actor playing Judge Clark and with Mrs. Reagan. Tell us what it was like, because you actually know how to ride a horse. You've got a background in that.
Yeah, well, from Texas, and so, you know. But when you're an actor, they ask you if you can ride. You always say, oh yeah, I can ride. You know, like the wind, I can ride. You know, like that. I'm from Texas. But I basically learned to ride the movies. I rode as a kid, and I have horses myself. You know, Reagan kind of was a great horseman. Everybody thinks, you know, Western Star and all that, or that he rode English. And it was actually, he rode like a cavalry officer rides. That's really, I think, what drew him, you know, wanted to be in the cavalry. And he was a great rider. And, you know, it's something that he knows and I knew, that you always feel better getting off a horse than you did getting on it. That's true. It's one way or another, that's true. But it's a great way to spend your time. Working at that ranch, we shot at the ranch, and I'm standing right in the spot where Reagan made these decisions and stuff like that. I can't tell you how spooky that was, and what an honor that was at the same time. But going up to that ranch is when I said yes to doing him, because I wanted to play him as a human being. I feel I have a responsibility, if somebody's a real person, to play them from their point of view. And first, to get there, you have to drive up 5 miles of the worst road in California off of that freeway. That gives you a little clue about California and Reagan. But and you come through there, and it was bought by a group of friends after he passed, and they kept it exactly as it was. Liz and Nancy's clothes are still in the closet. You expect them to come back at any time. But I drove through the gates, and I looked around and realized that Reagan was a humble man. Could really feel his spirit there. And I realized he was not a rich man. The house is 1,100 square feet. This was the Western White House. They had a king-size bed, but it was 2 single beds that were zip-tied together. And it had a basket like on the table in front of the television, you know, with 3 remote controls, because back in the 80s, you know, you remember how it took 3 remote controls to turn on the TV when cable came in? And one of them goes ka-prong, ka-prong. But you could really feel, we could feel both of them there. And it was such an honor to be in those places. But that's when I said yes, because I wanted to be able to feel him and not do an impersonation of him and catch his spirit.
Well, it really is very powerful. I was telling Mark on the carpet on the way in, my grandfather was born the same year as President Reagan on a farm just about 45 minutes north of here. And I think of that generation when you talk about zip tying the beds together. My grandmother, to the day she died, well into her 90s, her Tupperware was washed out cottage cheese containers because they never threw anything away in that generation. And you sense that when we go into the tack barn, into the garage, and then we got the horses all saddled up. There's all these Skippy and Peter Pan jars washed out where he put the screws and bolts and nuts in that, and they're just like my grandfather did. I might be a little weird, but I actually take a sniff every time because it reminds me of my grandfather and the way he grew up as well. But you talked about the horses. He said once there was nothing better for the inside of the man than the outside of a horse. And I think you're so right. I hope, folks, if you haven't had a chance to get there, come, particularly students, but anybody else hasn't been up to the Rancho del Cielo, the Ranch in the Heavens, Santa Barbara. I hope you all got a chance to go through the Ronald Reagan Boy Home. I call them the bookends because there's a scene at the end of the movie I was telling you about earlier when we went through the house where you're portraying President Reagan at the very end of his time up at the ranch, post-presidency, where he's starting the onset of Alzheimer's. You did it really powerfully and really very classy in the way that you did that, where he pulls that book off the bookshelf. It's a book he read here in the house in Dixon that is still with him at the end of his life. So powerful, the connection.
Frederick Udell.
Yeah.
That was really the centerpiece of everything. When you walk through the door, there's this very large bookshelf, and it's got just about every book that Reagan ever read there, and the printer of Udell being one of them. But his whole life is there. I mean, his whole philosophy is there. His principles are there. You can really feel the man there. He was an avid reader, that's for sure. And we shot there, and then we also shot the Reagan Library on the old Air Force One, which was an honor to be. And I had to pinch myself. We're in the real spots. And not only that, I was wearing Reagan's his leather jacket in one of these scenes, and it was just really special. I mean, it's memories that I will never ever forget.
Well, I'm going to ask Governor George Allen to come up, and I'm going to one quick request for all of you here. Then I'm going to ask one final question as Governor Allen makes his way up. We've got a special presentation on behalf of Young America's Foundation and the Reagan Ranch Board of Governors. But I want to thank all of you for coming. Like I said, all the students involved in our program, supporters from across the country, but particularly for all of you from Dixon. I want to thank you for welcoming us in, for being so supportive, even before when people like Pat Gordon and Marilyn Shippard and others were a part of keeping this incredible historical asset here. Then over the last few years, as we've taken it over, making us feel so welcome. My goodness, to have that parade today with all the things that are important. Lowell Park with a lifeguard stand where you're going to see it in the movie. All those things that are important for Dixon are going to be right here in the movie. But I hope you'll continue to engage. If you've got students, college, high school, now even middle school students. In a couple weeks you saw on the screen there's flyers out. You got middle school students. We just had a high school conference coming up. I hope you'll engage us, yf.org. Tell others about it. We'd love to have more in Dixon and throughout this area be a part of this program. And thank you all for embracing us. And for those of you here who haven't been up to the ranch, you got a personal invitation from me, the President of Young Americas, to come out and join us. Last question for you before we wrap up and do the presentation here and then get on to the movie. What do you hope, not just this audience, but audiences across America, what do you hope they take away after watching this spectacular movie?
Well, I feel like I'm going to answer that question twice. Because, first off, I want people to be entertained. That's what movies are for. And I myself, and I think all of us, I don't really necessarily go to the movies to see things. I go there to feel things. And to feel things with a community of people here in the audience. That's what it's all about. And like I say, this is about not just about Reagan, it's about us. We are Americans, and Reagan was the embodiment of the best of us, the best we are, our best selves, right up here. And that's what Dixon is too. Thank you so much, and God bless each and every one of you, and I hope you enjoy it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Quaid.
And Governor Scott Walker right there. And let's get to the clock. We have something for you. There's exciting parting gifts before you go to Daytona NASCAR. Governor George Allen here with a special presentation.
Right, Dennis, on behalf, as chairman, and on behalf of the Reagan Ranch Board of Governors, we so greatly appreciate you doing this movie. You've played a lot of parts through the years, historic roles as astronauts, part of the Jesse James gang, playing Doc Holliday with Wyatt Earp. But the best and the most enduring legacy of your acting career will not just be the entertainment, but the inspiration, the wholesomeness that you have portrayed in Ronald Reagan. This will endure from this theater in historic Dixon through ages to come. And so on behalf of the board, they give you some very special gifts that I think you'll like to wear. You'll probably know what this is first, a belt buckle. You can open it up if you want. Mark will hold the microphone for you. This is a...
I need a belt buckle too.
You'll like this one.
You like it when you're riding?
Oh, wow.
Well, look at this. This is Ronald Reagan.
It's Ronald Reagan on the front of it. Isn't that cool?
And then,
And it says number 40 on the back for the 40th president.
yeah, these are specially made. There's only a few of them, and this is number 40, and he was obviously the 40th president. And
You're in good company. Barbara Riggs has buckle number 1. So, Secret Service backing you up. This is an elite group.
And then,
You got one?
He's working on it.
That's my hero right there.
Amen.
Yeah, for sure.
Tim McCarthy, that's right.
all right, stop the kibitzing. Now there's a special.
These are our people, George.
I know they are, but they actually want to watch the movie before this picture. So this is a special hat.
You're going to love it.
You're gonna love this hat.
Special
You wear with your belt buckle or wear it with whatever you want.
And probably
And
pants.
and there's pictures of Reagan wearing this hat. On with the show.
Well, once you